Hey there, this is Seth, and I've got one more video for you in this series on using Feldenkrais Method processes to improve your Wim Hof wave breath. And if you've been following along the series, you know that one of the main ideas from the Feldenkrais Method that we've been using in this exploration is something called seesaw breathing. And there's also just a kind of a general movement through the skeleton, which is wave-like, that accompanies the wave breath. And so in this particular video, I'm actually going to be directing you more about moving the pelvis than thinking about the breathing, but it's that same movement up and down the spine, that same wave that we're thinking about. But the key idea in this video, and I think you'll find that this is something you can directly apply to your breath work, is to notice that you have particular habits. You have particular ways of moving. You're not symmetrical. Nobody is symmetrical. That's fine. There's no problem there. But it's worth just observing your tendencies so that you can kind of go with the pattern that's in your body, or at times maybe choose another pattern, but you certainly don't want to fight your natural patterns. And when you're doing the breath work, you're doing this movement over and over, but there's maybe a particular way that the movement goes through you that isn't covered by just the basic instructions of the technique that you're following along with. So this is, again, in the service of making the practice a little more your own, just to help you feel some of those particular things in your body. As always, if you enjoy the video, please subscribe, like, leave a comment. Would love to just exchange with you about your experience with the Wim Hof Method, about Feldenkrais Method, and I think it's time to get into the movement. Lie on your back with your feet standing, and just take a few moments to notice how you contact the floor with the soles of your feet, the back of your pelvis, your shoulder blades, and the back of your head. In each of these places, just notice if there's any sense of asymmetry. It's nothing to worry about. It's nothing you need to correct. In fact, probably better if you don't for what you want to explore right now. But just notice if there's a sense of more weight on one foot, on one side of the pelvis, on one shoulder blade, or one side of the back of your skull. And now slowly begin to roll the pelvis on the floor up in the direction of your head. You don't need to make a large movement, just make it comfortable. Rock the pelvis upwards and then let the pelvis return. Maybe make this movement as you exhale. And just see if you can feel how the movement sends a message up the spine. The chin can move away from the chest as you do this, rocking the head a little up the floor in the same way that the pelvis is moving. Pause for a moment, and then just make an easy movement of the pelvis going in the opposite direction, down towards your feet. So allow your belly to be soft as you do this. You can even think of pushing the belly out to help you make the movement. And here, maybe your chin gets pulled down towards your chest. Okay. And now, continue by alternating these two movements. Roll the pelvis up the floor and down the floor. And just, again, sense all the places that you make contact with the floor. All of those points of leverage. And then let go of everything. Take a rest. If you like, you can lengthen your legs. Just a brief rest, and then stand your feet again and resume what you were doing, rolling the pelvis up the floor and down the floor. But now pay special attention to how you make the movement of rolling the pelvis up. Does it feel like the pressure moves right up the middle of your sacrum? Or is there a little bit of a tendency to rock the pelvis a little more on one side? Don't change it. Just pay attention. When the pelvis goes up the floor, is one hip joint coming a little further away from the floor than the other? Is the line of the pelvis really straight up towards your head, or is it a little maybe towards one of your collarbones or even over towards one of your shoulder blades? And if the pelvis is slightly off center, do you notice that one of your legs is actually doing more work than the other one? Does one leg feel a little more active? One leg feel a little more passive? Okay, pause just for a moment. But then when you come back to the movement, and you can still roll the pelvis down away from your head, but every time you roll the pelvis up, now deliberately engage that one leg a little more than the other. So if the difference was a slight one before, now you're making it very clear. It's more of a diagonal movement of the pelvis, aiming up towards one shoulder. And in fact, when you roll the pelvis down, maybe it feels like you're aiming a little more towards one heel instead of down between your feet. But the point is, you're exaggerating a little bit of a bias that may have been there already. And feel as you make this movement, how does this pass up through your spine? Does your head turn a little to one side as you do this? Okay, let it go and take a rest, but see if you can feel now, after making this movement deliberately to one side, a bit of a difference in how the two sides of your pelvis rest on the floor. Maybe one leg rests differently. And notice the feeling of each of your shoulder blades. And roll your head gently a little left and a little right, just to notice the quality in each direction. And how do you experience that movement of rolling your head in your chest or further down your spine? Okay, stand your feet again. And this time, deliberately begin to move the pelvis towards your other shoulder. So you're going to have to engage the other leg a bit more. The one that was passive before becomes a little more active. And first off, just notice, does this movement feel like it might require a little more effort than what you did on the first side? Rather than trying to make the movement to be the same range, try to equalize the effort. In other words, if this is somehow a little less natural for you, you can make a smaller movement. Don't increase the effort. Rather, make the same effort you made on the first side and just see what results. You're not looking for some perfect movement here. You're looking to understand something about the patterns in your body. And now pause and just alternate. Make one movement where you're more engaged through the left leg and the pelvis moves up towards the right shoulder. And then the next time you engage more through the right leg, lifting the right hip a little more than the left as you rock the pelvis towards the left shoulder. After you've alternated a few times, try making the movement, the original movement of just rocking the pelvis up and down the middle. But see now if the middle is perhaps a little bit clearer. And maybe it's not perfect, but do you have a little more of a sense how you could maybe turn the volume a little up with one leg or turn the volume a little down with another leg? You can really find the center of the back of your pelvis. Okay, rest again. Now you're going to do something similar, just looking at a different aspect of the movement. So go back to rocking the pelvis up and down. And close your eyes as you do this, but notice even with the eyes closed, does it seem that one eye is the eye you're looking out of more than the other one? If you were making this movement in order to look a little bit up and down along the ceiling, which eye are you leading with? And now as you continue, just choose one eye, whichever seems to come more naturally again, and just pretend you're looking only out of that one eye. And when you do that, notice again the engagement of your legs. Notice again the trajectory of how your pelvis rolls over the floor. Are you still moving up and down the middle, or does this little game of looking more through one eye, does that actually change the way you're moving your whole back? And then pause, and of course try the same experiment now, looking out as if you were looking through the other eye. And notice here too, do you prefer the movement of looking out of your left eye, or do you prefer looking out of your right eye? If you were to go back and forth a little bit, what would you need to do to make these two movements feel a little more similar? And then, as best you can, just think of looking equally through both of your two eyes, aiming up and down the middle of your body as you rock the pelvis up and down. And then go ahead and rest your legs. Rest everything. And then just to make a connection, if you are doing the Wim Hof breath work, even if you don't go through a full breathing session now, just think of breathing into your belly, into your chest, into your head, as you would doing the 30 or 40 breaths before the breath hold. But see if you can sense, as you inhale, as you make that wave-like movement, is there any tendency for the movement to go a little more to one side or a little more to the other side? And again, what if you didn't consider that a problem? It's not that you need to correct it. In fact, maybe it's helpful to just embrace the movement to one side rather than trying to fight against it and make everything symmetrical. But just notice, is there some habit, is there some shape in your body that the movement seems to form around? And if you like, you can think about how you played with the movement of rolling the pelvis, which of course has a lot in common with the kind of movement through your spine when you do the wave breath. And you might just bring this observation and this way of experimenting with your habits into your breathwork practice from time to time. All right, so hope this was helpful to you, and see you next time.